Shirtless and holding on to a bottle, smelling like piss, thinking like Aristotle. Good morning to the birds and the bees. Good morning to the sun in the trees. Do, 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 do. Hop on the bus, it's all suspect and libel. Spit in your lap, you're invoking the Bible. Good morning to the birds and the bees. Good morning to the sun in the trees. Do, 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 do. Faces can shift and contort from a smile. It's been this way for a weird sort of while. A warning from the birds and the bees. I'm mourning with the sun in the trees. Do, 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 do. Last day on earth, ride the bus in a circle. On my way home, there you are, lying so cold. One evening in the warm summer breeze, your fingers clutching wine and Krispies. Do, 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 do. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. The reason I started off with that opening line, shirtless and holding on to a bottle, was that I had a very strange experience one morning on the bus. It was about 9:30 a.m. and this gentleman got on the bus without a shirt, carrying a half-filled bottle of wine and what looked like a tub of yogurt. He was kind of swaying onto the bus and he sat down next to me and I started reading my book and he said, "Good morning, $1,000,000." And then he said, "Good morning, $1,000,000," and raised his wine bottle to everyone around him. And it was really surreal. I was like, couldn't help but notice him saying that because it sounded so optimistic. Good morning, $1,000,000. And yet this guy was in this really desperate situation. It seemed like he had sort of a rash on him and it looked like he'd been sleeping on the cement probably. And I don't know, where he got the tub of yogurt. There were a lot of mysteries, but he basically started talking to us and he said to us, "Kettle chips and a bottle of wine, breakfast of champions." And I remember thinking, oh, I'm eavesdropping now. He's not really talking to me, I'm just kind of here and he's kind of addressing everybody, but he's sort of addressing nobody. It kind of feels like he doesn't really realize who's here around him, or he might be saying those things anyway if we weren't here. It wasn't really clear, but I started just trying to focus on my book. And then he started to spit. He spat on his lap, this big glob of spit that just kind of swayed as the bus moved, and I couldn't help but notice because it was right next to me, and I was like, okay, now he's spitting. that's more than I want to sign up for, but I'm looking around and there's no other seats, there's no other place to sit. So I'm thinking, okay, well, he didn't spit on somebody else, he spit on himself. I guess I'll just, stick it out for a little while longer and see if I can get another seat before he gets a little too rowdy. And this woman looked at him because he had spat in his lap. And he said to her, "Punk, devil, punk, devil." And I recognized him suddenly. I thought, oh my God, this is the punk devil guy. I know this guy. He was yelling like a week ago earlier, and he was sitting in a different part of the bus before, but I remembered the guy going punk devil. And I thought, oh, this is that guy, but he's also this other person now. He's the Good Morning $1,000,000 guy. He has like two sides to his personality, right? So like he walked onto the bus going, "Good morning, $1,000,000," and that's him in his optimistic state. And now he's feeling paranoid and afraid, and so he goes punk devil, and that's his other side of his personality. So I was struck by that, and at that moment a seat opened up, and so I moved away from him because I thought, he's spitting and he started yelling, and I don't really know if he's gonna turn and start yelling at me or whatever. So I sat away from him, and he saw me get up and move, and he was offended, and he said, "Devil," to me, and I went, "Oh no." And I just kept reading. I didn't make eye contact, but I could kind of see him in my periphery because he's yelling at me, of course. He's going, "Punk, devil." And then he goes, "He certainly is beautiful, though." And he pauses, and he just starts staring at me. And I was like, oh, here we go. And I was waiting for the other foot to drop. I was waiting for the next thing he was going to say or do, but he just kind of froze. He just froze in place. Outside of taking an occasional swig, which he would do, he would take a big swig, and then he would sit and just stare at me. And then I reached my bus stop, I exited the bus, and that was that. I never, had a further interaction with him. I went to work where I work as a piano teacher, and I had some downtime at one point, and I started writing a song, and these lyrics fell into my lap, shirtless and holding on to a bottle. I thought about this man, and I thought about his dual-sided personality and the feelings that he was carrying with him, and the fact that it was so early, and he was halfway through that bottle of wine, halfway through his breakfast of champions, I guess, and it just struck me, and I didn't know what to do with the experience, so I wrote a song about it, since that, as an artist, that's what feels natural to me. And on the way home that day, I saw him again. When I hopped off the bus, and he looked deceased. He looked like he had passed away. It was very alarming and sudden and strange, and there he was with just his face down on the cement, holding a bottle of wine and an unopened bag of kettled chips tightly, with his fists tight around them. And I thought, oh my God, it's the Breakfast of Champions. He went for a second round. And it was so strange. And I went home and I felt sad and troubled and confused by my experience. And I wrote more about him. I wrote, on my way home, "There you are, lying so cold," the lyrics go. "One evening in the warm summer breeze, your fingers clutching wine and Krispies." And that's where those lines come from. It's because I encountered this man on the last morning of his life, and then the last evening on my way home. And it was so surreal. And it doesn't feel like enough to write a song about it, Like, it doesn't feel like I'm doing him any good by writing the song. I wish I could, I don't know. I wish more was available to this man as far as resources or support or whatever he needed. But at the time, there was nothing I could do, and all I know to do is write a song. So this is my offering for those people out there who have lost somebody to addiction, or who have had to distance themselves from somebody because of addiction, or all of those people left behind who are suffering, who perhaps are not the ones drinking in the first place or using in the first place. But yeah, so I wrote that song for those people and for myself, and that's the story behind Good Morning $1,000,000. Thanks for listening.